Random fact that has absolutely nothing to do with this video. It is currently 115 degrees outside my window as I'm recording this video. It is hot, so please believe your boy gonna be doing everything indoors. Now, when I first got into photography, I remember reading something about modifiers and that your modifier should be as far from your subject as the modifier is wide. Now, I don't know if that was true. I don't know where that came from. It certainly is kind of the standard rule for beauty dishes, but I don't know if that was the just general rule for modifiers in general. And I really never paid much attention to it, and I still don't to this day. I pretty much place the light wherever I want the light to be able to get the quality of light and the light pattern and the shadows that I want. So the distance is pretty irrelevant to me. But I was sitting on the couch yesterday and this randomly popped into my head because that's how my brain works. I'm always thinking about something photography. And I really started to wonder if there was anything behind that. So I want to test it out and I want to bring you along with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 25-inch modifier and I'm going to take, I think like a 48-inch, somewhere around there, because that's about double. And I basically want to apply that. So I'm going to take the 25-inch modifier, have it 25 inches away from the subject, take a 48-inch modifier, have it 48 inches away from the subject, and compare the two just to see what type of light we're going to get. Now, based off of what I know about light, I do think the 48-inch, even at 48 inches away, will probably be, it will look different than the 25-inch at 25 inches away. But I want to compare the light pattern. I want to look at the shadows. I want to look at light coverage. I want to look at all those things. And then I'm going to flip it and I'm going to take the 25-inch and place that 48 inches away, and then take the 48-inch and place it 25 inches away and see what kind of light we get. Now, this really is just meant to play around with this and test it out. At the end of the day, you really should put your modifier where you need to put your modifier to get the look that you want. It really is that simple. We don't need to overcomplicate photography and lighting and all of those things. But I was curious how it would play out and if they will look similar, if they'll look really different. I don't really know. I'm going to find out once I go and do that. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. So let's get to playing around with these modifiers. All right, so let's have some fun. So on the left is the 25-inch quick octa at 25 inches away, and on the right over here is the 48-inch quick octa at 48 inches away. Now, right off the bat, you can see clearly they're different. Hopefully you did not think that they would be exactly the same. Of course, the highlights and the shadows are going to transition more smoothly with the 48-inch than they do the 25-inch. Now, in respect to them being distance away as much as they are wide, to be honest with you, I don't know if there is any benefit in doing so. It would be hard for me to really quantify here that there's a benefit to having it 25 inches away versus 30 inches away or 15 inches away. Same thing over here. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't pay any attention to that whatsoever. I just place the modifier where I want. But I wanted to have a baseline. And I'm going to bring this home for you because what I'm going to do next might blow your mind a little bit. Now, when we look at these two images, as I mentioned, there are some differences. The shadows over here are deeper. You can see that in the neck area. You can see it in the cheek over here. But with respect to the highlight detail, they're pretty similar. You know, if you look at this area right here, pretty similar. If you look at the forehead here, this highlight is a little bit more pronounced. A big part of that has to do with the fact that the modifier is smaller, so you're kind of seeing more concentrated light from the modifier than over here. It's going to be a little bit softer, and then it's also further away, so you've got inverse square law playing a bit of a factor there with respect to the shadow fall off and that sort of thing. But all in all, when you look at it, they're not terribly different. But as I mentioned, let me blow your mind a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and we're going to we're gonna make some edits to this, to the 25-inch quick octa. Now I've already done this for the sake of keeping this video short, so I'm reading off of a sheet right now, but you can see the values that I'm putting in here, and I'll make this make sense as soon as I rock these values in here and we go back to the comparison. Now if we go back and we compare, so again, on the left, we have the 25-inch quick octa, and on the right, we have the 48-inch quick octa. Now, where this might blow your mind is that just in making those small edits, I was able to get this 25-inch quick octa to look pretty similar to the 48-inch. So naturally, the 48-inch, the larger the light source relative to your subject, the softer the light. Now, of course, we had it 48 inches away, so that's not going to give you as soft a light as if it was closer, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But naturally, a larger modifier typically is going to produce softer light, right? So here we have this small modifier that is 25 inches away from the subject, so it is relatively close. And we're able to get these to be pretty comparable. So, if we start down here and we look at these highlights, I mean, the highlights are very smooth here. If we come and look at that shadow detail, of course, it's still a little bit deeper underneath the chin with the 25-inch than it is with the 48-inch, but we've neutralized that. It's not as deep. It's pretty close to what we have over here. The shadows on the cheek have been opened up. They're pretty similar to what we have over here. So the question may be, why does this matter? What point are you bringing home? Well, what I'm bringing home is that you can have a smaller modifier and you can make it look like you used a larger modifier. That is essentially the point that I'm trying to bring home. Now, I wouldn't recommend that this be your go-to and that you just do this all the time and rely on editing to get the look. Use the right modifier. But if you're in a situation where you're using a smaller modifier and it's not producing as soft a light as you want, you can mimic a larger, softer light source in your edit. So that's good to know. Now, does this play a factor in the fact that it's 25 inches away? Possibly. And maybe that's why they say have it that far away. Can't really say, because again, I don't really know. But I think it's awesome that you can take this smaller modifier, make some small edits, and get it to look like you used a softer light than you did. Now, if we go to the other set where I placed the 25-inch modifier 48 inches away and the 48-inch modifier 25 inches away. Now, if we look at this, you can definitely see that the light from the 48-inch modifier, the transition from highlight to shadow is butter smooth. Butter smooth. I mean, the transitions are just very creamy, very pleasing. Whereas the 25-inch, the light isn't terrible by any means, but we definitely have some specularity in the highlights. The transitions are not smooth whatsoever. And so when I talk about placing the light source as close or as far away as you need to be able to get the light you want, this is what I'm talking about. If you want this super soft light like this on your subject, even if you have a 48-inch modifier, it's going to make sense to have that light modifier closer to your subject than 48 inches away. So if you just stuck to that hard, fast rule of distance equal to width of the modifier, you would never get this light on your subject here. And so it's important to think, what do you want, and place that modifier where you need to. Now, one thing that you may notice is that even though we have this really soft light, we still have all of this shadow on the cheek area and underneath the chin. And you may be wondering, such a large light source, a 4-foot modifier, how are we still having these deep shadows? And this is where the inverse square law comes in. And I had a video on this where I talked about not always placing the light as close to your subject as possible. And this is why. Because of the inverse square law, the closer that modifier is to your subject, the faster that light is going to fall off. So you can still get shadow even with a large modifier. And you're seeing that in this example right here. So maybe this isn't exactly what you want. If you don't want that quick fall off, if you don't want those shadows, then it's going to make sense to have that modifier further away. Contrary, over here with the 25-inch that is 48 inches away. If you want a more punchy light, if you want more specularity, if you want more deeper shadows, then yeah, it would make sense to pull that modifier back. So then that way you're going to get a harder light and it's going to help you get that look that you want. So at the end of the day, I keep saying it, but I really want to drive the point home that when it comes to photography, we don't have to overcomplicate it. Put the modifier where it needs to be to get the look that you want. It really is that simple. Now, before I end this video, real quick, I just want to compare, just for the sake of it, I want to compare the 60 inch, I keep saying 60 inch, the 48 inch. I think I was going to use the 60 inch. That's the reason why I keep saying 60. The 48 inch. Now, on the left is the 48 inch modifier, 48 inches away, and on the right is the 48 inch modifier 25 inches away. So I've cut that distance in half. And so you can see that with the modifier 48 inches away, although the light is soft comparatively, we do still have more specularity in the highlight, and the transition from highlight to shadow is harsher with the modifier at 48 inches away than it is with the modifier at 25 inches away. So this drives the point home that when it comes to the size of your modifier, it's not, well, the size of your modifier with respect to soft light, it isn't just the size of the modifier, it's the size of the modifier relative to the subject. So in this example, we have the same size modifier, but with the modifier 48 inches away, it's relative to the subject, it is smaller than the 48 inch modifier that is 25 inches away from the subject. So you always have to think about size of your modifier relative to your subject and what kind of look that you want. Now, this is the same modifier metered to the same settings, but we really have two different looks. We've got deeper shadows with the modifier closer than we do with the modifier further away. We've got more specularity in the highlights with the modifier further away than we do with it close. So again, depending upon the look that you want, that is going to dictate where you place your modifier. So having it as far from your subject as it is wide, is that a rule to follow? I would say no, but if you want to, hey, do what you wish. Photography is your game. Play it however you want.